In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to remove the background from your image, or basically how to make a cutout of an image. So I'm going to open up this photo, Photoshop 1 in Photoshop, by just opening it up in Photoshop. And then I'm going to reset everything by clicking this drop-down menu and choosing Reset Camera Raw Defaults. So everything is back to normal, no edits. And then with the Shift button, choose Open Object, so it's a smart object if I ever want to go back to Camera Raw. The tool I want to show you is this selection tool. If you hold it down, you have the Magic Wand tool, but what I want to show you is the Quick Selection tool. When you do that, you see your tool options up here, which if you choose any of these tools, you usually get options up here. You have a plus, a minus. If you have click this arrow down, you have the settings, you have the size, the hardness, which is basically like the feathering. If you have it at 0 hardness, there's sort of a feathering effect on the side. If the hardness is all the way up, there's not much feathering. There's other options here, but just leave spacing at 10% and you should be good to go. Sample all layers should be off unless you have multiple layers that you're trying to make a selection of, but usually it's just one, so that's fine off. And auto enhance on is great. Now what we do is basically click on the objects that we want to cut out. So if I click over Sam's face, you see what happened? As I clicked and dragged, Photoshop recognized that all of this is probably what I want. And it recognizes that based off of color and exposure and seeing the edges of things. So now it doesn't know I want the sweater, but if I just click and drag over here, it grabs a bunch, keep clicking and dragging, and eventually it's going to grab everything. Now say I clicked and dragged and selected too much like it did there with the background, all I need to do is go to the minus selection or press the Option key to get the minus brush. Now I can subtract all of the selection that was made. You'll notice that now I have this selection, and it's a pretty rough selection. To make a cutout, what you need to do is copy and paste it. So you can press Command C and then Command V. And what happens is it created this new layer. And notice if I turn off the bottom layer now, we have a cutout of Sam. Let me add a white background so we can really see what this cutout looks like. If I click this button down here, the one we saw for the new adjustment layers, there's a solid color layer. And I'm just going to choose white when the color picker pops up. Click OK. And now put that color layer down at the bottom. So you'll notice that we have this cutout now, but the edges don't look that good. So I want to show you how to improve those. So let me actually just turn off that layer by checking on and off the eyeball, turn back on my photo layer, and I want to use the selection tool, but make sure that I'm selecting the layer that I want to select. So clicking the practice photo one. So now I'm going to click and drag over like I did before. Click over his ear. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to choose Select and Mask. So now it brings up this other menu with properties on the side, which we can use to sort of make it better. Skipping these top two options, you have Radius, which sort of looks at the edge and tries to intelligently choose the right selection. So you can see here with it off and then with it on, and it's by pixels. So it's actually selecting 37 pixels and trying to read what you want to select. Part of Sam's hair starts to look pretty good. If we turn on Smart Radius, it does a little bit more work in the back end to look even better. You also have these global refinements like smoothing, feather, contrast, shift edge, feathering. See what happens? It kind of feathers the edge, makes it soft. Contrast does a little bit more on looking at different colors and contrast of exposures to make the selection. Shifting edge will shrink or increase the selection. And smooth will make the selection sort of sharper or a little bit more smooth. I do quickly want to show you what this opacity is. This is just a preview of what the background would look like. So with the opacity at 0, you're actually seeing the background. With that at 100, you're not. In between, you're kind of seeing a combination of the background with no background. I can change the color if I want to see it against red. If that makes it easier to see my selection, you can change that color there. So that's just helping for preview. There are some tools over here that help you refine things, especially like hair. So if you have hair that's especially longer or a little bit more detailed, this will help you. Click that tool. You can adjust the size of the tool here. And then by clicking and dragging over the edge, you can see as I do that, it starts to pick up more of Sam's hair. Pretty neat, huh? So it's a good idea to go over the edge of things with that tool, especially with hair. And once you unclick, it does a pretty good job at selecting. His ear over here also isn't perfect, so let me brush over that. That's starting to look a little bit better anyways. The edge of his jacket, you're getting some of that fuzz. That looks pretty fine. If you do want to make a complete new selection, you go back to this selection brush. And this is just like the selection brush when we made our initial selection. You can add things by clicking and dragging, and it might take a while to process, or subtract things. And now it's doing a lot of processing because it's like, Phil, what are you doing? You're telling me you want this background. Now you're telling me you don't want this background. We don't really know what to do. So I'm going to step backwards or undo, which if you go up to the edit menu, go to step backwards, you can actually go back in your steps, basically like the history to go backwards. So let me just make sure that we have the selection of his ear a little bit better. It's pretty good. And it might help in this instance to drop the opacity so you can really see what you're working with. So once you've made all of your adjustments, click OK. But nothing has changed yet. Remember, you have to copy and paste to create a new layer. So if you press Command-C on a Mac, Control-C on a PC, then Command-V, now we have this new layer. So let me go ahead and take both of these layers. I can select both by selecting one and then shift-clicking the other, pressing the V key on my keyboard to get my Move tool, or just going to the Move tool. And now I can resize them. Again, holding down the Shift key to keep the aspect ratio. I just want to show you kind of the before and after. So now when I'm done moving them, press Return on my keyboard to place it. And now let's separate them. So you can see the one on the right is the one we did initially, and the one on the left is the one we used the Refine Edge tool. And you can see how good that does at removing the background while still getting the small details of Sam's hair. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that top one. I'm going to take this good one right here. And there we go. We have Sam's new passport photo. I'm sure he's going to love this one. In all seriousness, that is how you remove the background from a layer in Photoshop. You still have this background layer or the full photo down here if you ever want to use it for something, but we have this new layer with just the selection. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in another lesson.